Hello viewers and welcome to another episode of the Running Mech, a Lancer battle report series where I put the players against the NPC. In this episode, let's talk about how to deal with grunts.
Showdown.
So, before I start anything, I would like to thank Morge40k, Vagabond, Anonsense, and Salsa who is here once more for the session. This mission is gonna follow the holdout sitrep, which is basically a sitrep where the players have to defend their location with a couple covers against waves of enemies, and if they get overrun at the end of the session, they fail. In this case, I decided to take the waves part more literally. So, grunts. Grunt is basically a template that takes an NPC and makes them only have 1 health. This should make them very weak but wrong, because now there's 4 of them and they all deal the same damage and do the same thing as a standard NPC would. But there's also another template that most game masters use to make grunt even weaker. Enter the RPV or remote pilot vehicle template, which makes the grunt being constantly impaired, weaker to tech action, and the health bonus doesn't apply at all. This means that a RPV grunt is weak, can't shoot straight, and is basically shit. This episode is to demonstrate how crappy they could be. You can find more NPC information in my mechanic bestiary video here. I will also be giving the players license level 4 for this mission instead because, well, there's kinda just too much to track when most of the players here are first timers. Anyway, let's begin round 1. 2 teams of 4 robot grunts, mirages, scouts, scourers, and operators quickly came in from the doors. 2 turrets, 1 rainmaker and 1 bombard, popped out of their hatches at the corners of the room. Summer of Love quickly casted down Wandering Nightmare in front of the right group, which didn't really do much because Wandering Nightmare heat effect only works if the targets start their turn in it. A robotic scout quickly moved up and casted Cloaking Field, camouflaging every allies in the field, and then tried to shoot at the one who brings death to the you know what I'm just gonna call them the one, which missed horribly. Soul Destroyer moved up, casted another Wandering Nightmare on the real good spot, and then overcharged to get out of there. To prevent half of the enemy force from immediately dying, the robotic Mirage managed to pass the system save for Wandering Nightmare, teleport the Scourer and Operator out of there, tried to hack Soul Destroyer but failed, then just teleport out of the Nightmare. I love Mirage so much. Tucker, seeing the grunts on their side is invisible, decided to do a vanishing trick. First, they moved out of cover and fired a slag cannon, which got through Scout's invisibility but missed anyway. Then with an overcharge and seismic pulse, the block created by slag cannon exploded and both the scout and operator mysteriously vanished into 1,000 pieces. With the scout gone, the cloaking field collapsed, and they quickly shuffled back to cover afterward. The other Mirage then handed its invisible field to the robotic scourer then successfully warped the one sensor, making them having a slightly bad time at hitting stuff. Mirage then moved its ass to some cover that might just spontaneously explode thanks to Tucker. The last player with a turn left, quickly moved out of cover to gun the robots down. Thermal rifle missed the now invisible scourer, and a mortar shell smacked the Mirage dead just barely. As a precaution, the one threw a flash grenade at the scourer after an overcharge, preventing it from firing out of its current position. The robotic scourer of course, quickly moved out of the flash zone and shot at the one, which missed because of course, and then just settled on locking onto them. The other scourer also did the same to Soul Destroyer, but actually hitting this time. The remaining robotic operator tried the same trick to Summer of Love but also missed. The other scout just died, and then finally the 2 turrets got to fire. The turret Rainmaker, due to lock on the one and Summer of Love, hit them harder and more accurate than usual. The remaining missile barrage just whipped over Tucker however. Then the Rainmaker unleashed volley to deal even more damage onto the players, which isn't possible because this is a full action and it just spent a quick action. The turret bombard then opened fire, launching an Earthshaker round at Soul Destroyer, Summer of Love, and the Operator, because guess what, Operator explodes when they die. Except the bombard missed almost everyone. Also the Earthshaker was completely useless because everyone passed the hull save. Round 1 ended, and round 2 quickly began. The walls suddenly exploded, because a pair of robotic breachers just made holes in them with 2 robotic berserkers following behind them. Another Rainmaker turret popped out of the hatch, and a goddamn Ascended Witch hovered out of the gate, in an extremely menacing way. With this many enemies on the field, and a horribly painted Monarch on the player team, you have 3 guesses as to what happens immediately. The answer is fucking missiles. 3 of the breachers were dead and so were 3 of the berserkers. The Scourer that survived last round was also dead. All the turrets took quite a bad hit and some suspiciously placed napalm canisters also got hit by the missile and exploded, burning up some of the turrets. Why a Harrison Armory research facility has canisters filled with napalm just lying around haphazardly is anybody's guess. The only thing left alive were 3 turrets, 1 Mad Witch, and 4 grunts. It took me 10 minutes to roll agility save for everything. And then Summer of Love overcharged because why not, and then launched a Sharanga missile at the Berserker with shock round from Walking Armory, completely wiping out the Breacher and Berserker team in an instant. Seeing as my wonderful plan is completely destroyed, I decided to get real mad with the Witch. The Ascended Witch teleport out of the flash zone and immediately hack Summer of Love with predatory logic, which let the Witch fires any of the hacked players' weapons while also consuming their reaction for the turn. And I picked the Pinaka missile that Summer has to make a delayed fire that will land on the 2 spots at the end of next round, which isn't possible at all because super heavy weapon cannot be fired as a reaction no matter what. Keep that in mind the next time you use Witch. However, this Witch also has spread suffering, causing the same tech attack on Soul Destroyer which succeeded and forced them to fire their heavy machine gun at Summer, which hit for 15 goddamn damage. Summer of Love quickly braced to have the damage, but that's not possible because as I said before, predatory logic consumes the target's reaction to fire their weapon. And this happens with a single quick tech action from Witch. I like Witch already. The Ascended Witch then hacked the 1 to blind them for 1 of their turn, which didn't work so well as the 1. Deciding the Witch needed to go, now, walked up to its face and immediately set it on fire with its Krakatoa, or rather, tried to, because Witch can reverse time thanks to the fact it's an exotic Witch, causing the Krakatoa to miss next time. It didn't stop the prototype weapon the 1 also has from almost destroying it though. Then the 1 overcharged just to burn the Witch dead on its spot. The robotic operator fired at Summer of Love once again, this time structuring them. At this point we realized that Summer couldn't have braced because of predatory logic, the full damage of the heavy machine gun got applied. Then we all remembered that Summer of Love has custom paint job and it didn't help. With a structure gone, the Wandering Nightmare system got destroyed too, however the actual effect will stay there permanently, or until this mission ends. Also the operator then locked onto Tucker. Tucker then moved out of the incoming Pinaka blast zone and then overcharged to shoot at the operator, who exploded upon destruction, but Summer was merely slightly damaged by it. Tucker then stabilized to get rid of all their heats and the lock-on status on them. The first Rainmaker turret, figured that it's about to die, launched an Atlas missile at Summer, which will also land at the end of next round. And then it burned to death. Soul Destroyer, with it about to face some close dangers, activated its core power, Tormentor Spikes, which didn't come into use at all, and charged at the Bombard turret, fired their nail gun at the canister, which exploded and burned the Bombard, then boosted forward again, overcharged, and fired their heavy machine gun, dealing more than enough damage to completely destroy the turret. Heavy machine gun just hit so hard sometimes. The second Rainmaker fired some more of its missiles, which with lock-on on the 1 and Summer again, hit rather hard, also missed Tucker, again. And then it just invaded the 1, impairing them and causing them to get real hot. Also it got burned too. The remaining robotic Mirage then hacked Summer of Love with warp sensor, lowering their accuracy, and then locked onto Tucker. Round 2 ended, and round 3 began. Another Ascended Witch walked out of the door and straight into the Wandering Nightmare zone, another Bombard turret popped out of the hatch, and then 2 groups of yet another Scourers, Scouts, Operators, and Mirages emerged out of the vents, the last of the waves. Tucker, seeing the perfect opportunity, ripped out another blast of Seismic Ripper, sending Shockwave behind their cover, knocking down 2 of the bots and detonating the canister at the end of the wave, terminating another robot and burning up the bombard turret, and since Tucker also has lesson of open door, the robotic Mirage immediately melted from the heat as it failed the save from Seismic Ripper. Finally, with an extremely lucky overcharge roll, Tucker hid behind the still intact cover. Seeing everyone around it is dead, the robotic scout quickly ran and boosted the hell away from Tucker, and then tried to shoot at Soul Destroyer. I should say that Scout is being rather useless in this episode, but every single Breacher and Berserker died without doing anything. The one, with them about to burst like an overworked rice cooker, just triggered Gangi's core power, exposed power cells, and then ran straight to the closest group of robots. A skirmish with prototype weapon overheated their mech, instantly destroying the nearby Mirage, and as soon as the operator takes its turn, it's dead. Both the robotic Scourer and Scout are in the blast radius of the prototype weapon, but only the Scourer gets blasted apart. The Ascended Witch quickly teleport out of the nightmare after passing the save roll for it, and casted Tear Down on Summer of Love for not backing away when they can, and with Dark Cloud, the tear down could cause even more heat at the witch's next turn if the target is in danger zone, which Summer of Love is. With no other target nearby because Tucker is currently hidden, the witch casted predatory logic on Summer of Love again, this time commanding them to fire Sharanga missile at their allies. Which end up even worse for the NPC had it not fired, because Summer of Love applied shock round from Walking Armory to the missile aimed at Soul Destroyer, who cannot be damaged by the missile at all because they have 3 armor, and sapped the nearby Scourer out of existence. Now this is a big brain moment. After this amazing moment, you would think that Summer of Love would immediately take the next turn to stabilize and run the hell out to let others deal with the witch. Summer of Love ran towards the witch, failed to grapple it, and activated self-destruct. And then eject, which is impossible because it takes another quick action for it. What the fuck, why would you do that? And then Flower Child, pilot of Summer of Love, ordered the Trolloc class NHP within to overcharge and then successfully grapple the witch, which by the way the NHP didn't even get to flex its power at all prior to this. And they are now exposed because they overheated. Moving on, the bombard turret, trying to not deal unfriendly damage this time, aimed to the right of Soul Destroyer and completely missed. And then it failed the following engineering check. As the last player for round 3, Soul Destroyer dashed between the 2 robot Grunt and Barrage. Impact lance pierced through the Mirage, and Nail Gun turned the Scout into a pincushion. With another lucky overcharge roll, Soul Destroyer completely annihilated the witch with one burst of heavy machine gun, but the witch reversed time again, which isn't possible because being grappled prevents reaction, and oh god, change back now. The last robotic Scout finally got to move, and was finally able to hit something, with that something being the one, which is aided by the fact that Scout can ignore invisibility and hidden, and then it invaded the one just so it has a slim chance of surviving next turn. The Rainmaker turret, with only the one at its range, just hit them with its missile and invaded them once more. Also a turret finally passed the burn check. Also the robotic operator should have had its turn this round, but I forgot. Round 3 ended with all the Pinaka and Atlas missiles bombarding harmlessly, and round 4 began with me remembering about the robotic operator's last turn, so it immediately died. Summer of Love quickly took the first turn to, finally, launch their Pinaka missile across the map and at the singular robotic Scout, which missed, before running straight to the bombard turret and exploding like an honorary manticore. Also, the very immobile, and stationary bombard turret managed to dodge the nuclear inferno, but even half damage was enough to completely destroy it. The canonically most expensive and rarest mech in Lancer, destroyed just like that. With literally everyone else dead, the Rainmaker turret has its final stand by launching a wave of javelin rockets behind the one, and fires its main missile to knock them back into it, structuring and destroying their thermal rifle. The one decided to answer their insolence by walking straight up to their faces and burning them, ending the session in Inferno, which is basically how I would describe this entire session. So, after the session, the very first thing I'm gonna tell you about using waves of RPV grunts is don't. It was actually kinda boring to just keep moving all these shitty units that could die in one hits, and despite the sheer variety of NPC I have utilized, the players didn't really fight smart like Lancer is designed to, and just dealt enough damage to solve the problem. It really wasn't as engaging as sneaking behind the backliner to backstab them, stacking up incredible amount of dices from everyone to one-shot an ultra, or actually work as a team, which I have to say, this team kinda didn't. Rather than everyone taking part in their roles, it's more like everyone just dump as much damage onto the enemy as possible to demolish the wave before the wave demolish them. Everyone is running off to do their own thing in their own pieces of the map, except for Summer of Love, and hell, the exact same situation kinda happened in episode 2, probably because I'm too stupid to realize you are not supposed to dump so many NPC in one wave on the players. I will say this though, despite the very messy situation and messy teamwork, the team still managed to fight back well against the wave, most of them at the very least. As for the NPC, the robotic Mirage is doing a fantastic job yet again by keeping allies out of harm's way whenever possible, and honestly is one of my most favorite NPC right now. Robotic Scout on the other hand, is just plain unlucky with RNGesus. The impaired status that comes with RPV just hurts them too much. In fact, the impaired status with RPV, well, impaired every single NPC that comes with it. Scourer and Operator did some work but would have done more without the impaired status, and the less I said about the Breacher and Berserker, the better. The turreted Rainmaker and Bombard get to slowly wear down the player, though the Rainmaker did more work than Bombard due to increased accuracy and reliable. And the number one first impression would go to the Ascended Witch, which gets completely insane with predatory logic, and is absolutely devastating with exotic template. I can see why so many people are terrified of Witch now, especially without proper precautions or plans against it. That's about everything, but before ending this episode, I have one thing to say. Please don't spontaneously self-destruct for absolutely no good reason in the middle of a session, especially the first of the sessions. The only reason why this got consequence-free is because this is a one-shot, but I seriously don't want people to gain a bad habit because of this. Anyway, with everything done, I will see you all next time. Hello there, if you like this video, please subscribe to my channel and click that notification bell button. If you really want to support my channel, you could visit my Patreon page, or buy me some coffee, links in the description. Anyway, have a nice day.